Yet another mass shooting. This time, the worst one we've had. 50 people dead and several hundred injured, maybe grievously wounded. I'm not sure of all the details, but, you know, my worst fear with all this is that it's just going to create more fear. It's just going to create more anger and violence and enmity. And I think that that's exactly what has gotten the country into the state it's in today. It's no coincidence to me, and probably to many people, that the two potentially worst hurricanes this country's seen and the worst mass shooting that this country's seen happened under, you know, President Mango Mussolini here. The man instills hatred and fear by his very essence. That's his nature. I don't even think he's conscious of it at this point. It's, people want to look at Trump and hate him and ascribe basic faculties of, goodwill and human comprehension and, personhood to him. But he keeps proving time and time again that he doesn't have those faculties. Maybe one time he did, but it doesn't seem like he has them now. It's almost like he's a soul that's collapsed in on itself, like a black hole. It just sucks things in, and it's never fulfilled. And in fact, if you look at his chart, it's pure Rahu. Rahu, the head of the dragon, is conjoined to his sun, which rules his ascendant. And, we can see that he lusts after veneration, appreciation, validation, all from other people. He's so concerned with what people think about him. He wants to be validated all the time, constantly. And he has an insatiable lust for power and gold and fame. He even has an ugly gold penthouse. That's how much he's obsessed. And of course, the head of the dragon, being that the dragon's disembodied and it doesn't have a body, is never satiated. So someone like Trump with a destroyed moon, a destroyed sun, he's basically just a big black hole. And honestly, if we study ancient wisdom teachings and we take our cue from the great masters of the ages like Buddha and Yeshua and any other saint or mystic you can think of, we'll find that basically they're going to tell us that hating somebody like Trump or hating somebody like this shooter or any other shooter or all of the really kind of blatantly ignorant, uneducated, angry people in this country that are promoting racism and violence and bigotry and things like that, like viscerally hating them is actually just going to feed that pool of enmity and hatred and strife and whatnot. It does nothing to assuage the fears and the wounds that people are suffering from. It does nothing to put our minds and our hearts at ease or to bring us together. It doesn't inspire unity, and it certainly doesn't speak to wholeness, which is the essential fact of existence. The essential fact of existence is wholeness, non-duality. It's beyond formless and form. That's what all the ancient wisdom teachings will tell us in so many words and allegories and poetic similes and whatnot. So I know it sounds like a stupid new agey thing, like love everyone, be compassionate, but this isn't like a lovey-dovey kind of thing. This is like okay, we need to stand up and take a step into the unknown. And the unknown for us collectively as a culture, but even as a whole people on this whole planet, the unknown is that state of, treating everything and everyone as another side of the many, the manifold face of deity, rather than as a separate thing or a separate individual. We are, as a country, I'm going to stick to the country as much as I can because obviously the world is in great disarray as well in general, and there are horrible atrocities that make the mass shootings that we've suffered here and even some of the terrorist attacks that we've suffered here, seem negligible, but it's not about comparison. It's just a reminder that, you know, we are not used to this, obviously, so, which doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it normal, but okay. Anyway, I'm going to try to stick to this country more. These things are happening. We have the president. We have the situations arising, the mass shootings, the hurricanes, things like that. These things are arising as a reflection of our collective inner nature. As a people, we are pretty violent and angry and full of enmity and hatred and fear in varying degrees. And if you're watching this, you may say, well, I'm not like that. I'm a really good person. You know, I'm not, I would never shoot someone or kill someone, or I'm not bigoted, I'm not racist, and those kinds of things. And my response is, it's not about labeling yourself as that or not that. It's about asking yourself, where am I angry or bigoted or racist in my daily life? Are there any thoughts and feelings that come up that are reminiscent of that stuff? And it's about being aware of that day to day, moment to moment, and then acknowledging it, right? Accepting it and saying, okay, well, this isn't me. This isn't a part of me. It's just a passing thought bubble or feeling bubble, and I don't need to identify with it. And that's a really kind of it's kind of a poor way of me to describe, you know, shamatha, mindfulness meditation, and vipassana, you know, meditative insight, things like that. But you know, that's kind of I think to the mind that has never encountered these more esoteric sort of teachings, it's sort of the best I can do at the moment. Is you look at what is arising within you, and you don't attach to it or reject it. You just let it be what it is, and if you do that, it will leave you on its own accord. I would really recommend for people to read what Jiddu Krishnamurti has to say about these kinds of things. He pretty much hits the nail on the head with regard to how the society is a reflection of the individual and vice versa, how the two are not separate, how the individual is the society. So it's that, you know, it's that kind of cliche saying, change yourself, change the world. But it's not so much about change as it is about consciousness and awareness and being present and realizing that, you know, things are not random, that even chaos is somehow part of the ordered whole that we call the universe and we call life. So basically, it's really acknowledging that, okay, the root of our problem isn't that people can buy whatever guns they want. Okay, that is ridiculously stupid at this point. It should be a no-brainer that we don't need to let people buy whatever guns they want. And actually, I don't think people need guns, because for the most part, owning guns is, people own guns because they are afraid, not because they're calm, cool, and collected individuals who, you know, want to go hunting every once in a while. Of course, there are a few people like that here and there, but the majority are buying and owning guns out of fear, and honestly lack the training necessary to use the gun properly, which is ironic. For a whole nother set of reasons. But we cannot keep reducing the problems to things like a lack of gun control. That's a symptom. You know, it's something that maybe needs to be dealt with. You know, like if you break your arm because you were just acting negligently, well, yes, your arm needs to be put in a splint, but your negligence needs to be addressed. So, because if you keep acting negligently, you're just going to break your arm again or another limb. So we need to deal with the root of the problem, not just the surface level of it, not just, not putting bandages on deep wounds, right? We need to take the holistic approach to healing, not the reductionistic allopathic style approach to healing. And so that means that, okay, yes, guns should probably be controlled or regulated in some manner, but that alone isn't going to heal or fix the problem. The problem, again, it stems from our daily enmity, our daily anger, our daily sense of separateness, looking outside of ourselves for satisfaction and fulfillment instead of looking within. Our society is largely just totally broken, and so people don't really know where to look or why things are happening the way they are, and they don't self-examine. So unfortunately to them, everything seems rather chaotic instead of holistic, but everything is actually incredibly ordered and measured and perfect in its in the way it works. Now, that doesn't mean everything is in harmony, as we might define the term. That doesn't mean everything is, working towards the good, but it does mean that everything that happens is a logical consequence of, whatever preceded it, both a cause and an effect. So a lot of people ask, well, if there's a God or a supreme being, why does that supreme being let bad things happen? And my answer would be, he doesn't, or it doesn't. People let bad things happen. People create bad things. And of course, this goes back to the doctrine of free will, which is a very misunderstood doctrine, and I'm not going to get into it here. But because of the way we exist, our consciousness exists in the world, we do have the ability to choose evil, inharmonious actions over good and righteous actions. And in reality, I'll just say this about free will: it's pretty much just freedom to choose truth, which some like to call God or Creator or the Tao or whatever. Freedom to choose truth, doing what's right because it's right, not because you want to do it or because you think you should do it, because it's just, no, this is right, and knowing this is right, if I choose to not do it, right, that's the free will, choosing to do it or not do it. And it's pretty much that simple. Any actions that are egotistically motivated, and especially ones that harm others, which automatically will harm yourself as well, because there's no real separation, there's just apparent separation, those are what we could call evil actions. It's not about morality, it's just about self-serving actions. So if we want to change the world, again, we have to do that in our everyday life. We have to, down to the smallest thing. When you get annoyed, you have to be ready to catch yourself and to deal with that instead of just taking it out on someone else, because misery loves company. So when you're miserable, any of us are miserable, there's gonna be a knee-jerk reaction to try to make other people around us miserable so that we don't feel so alone, so we can distract ourselves from the misery that resides within the pits of our heart. But I'm saying that, I'm certainly, this is not my teaching at all. I don't take any credit for anything I'm saying right now, but what I'm saying is we need to actually go within that deep pit, that deep cavern, and we need to face and understand compassionately whatever resides in there. And if it's a wounded young version of ourselves, then we feed it and we give it love and compassion and caress it. But there's a different kind of compassion that we need to employ if we find instead a horrible demon. We need to destroy it. We need to eviscerate it. We need to drive it from the depths of our being, much like Yeshua drives out the gamblers in the temple in one of the stories in the gospel. He whips them. He's like, get out of here. And that's one of my favorite stories to illustrate compassion, because compassion is not a lovey-dovey, warm, gushy kind of thing. Compassion is, again, choosing truth and not holding resentment towards yourself or others in a given situation. You treat everyone as a reflection of yourself, and because ultimately everything and everyone is just a reflection of the Supreme Self, which is beyond time, space, and mind, and beyond formlessness and form, and so on and so forth. So I guess I'll leave you with that, and to finish off, I'll just quote one of my favorite sages, Sri Dattatreya of India. "Why lament then, O mind? I'm the same self in all."